ingredients to a fabulous dish. Soupe de tomate avec coquillage. Tomato soup with shellfish. Welcome to Versatile Kitchen. I'm Michael Slaughter, your host. Today, we are in Moss Beach, California, just south of Pacifica, at the home of Dorothy and Susan Maurer. We have our guest chef here is Deidre Close of La Vita Cafe in Pacifica, and her chef assistant is a graduate of the California Culinary Academy, Susan Maurer. Deidre and Susan, tell us about the dish.
Well, we have fresh seafood from the coast. You can catch all of this, at least from Pacifica, down to Half Moon Bay. We've gone and secured our crayfish from down the coast, freshwater crayfish, and you can catch these by using a long stick and a little bit of bacon, tying it with a little string and putting it in the water, and 15 minutes later you come back and you have maybe 6 or 7 crayfish nibbling at it. And you use a butterfly net, come up from behind where the tail is, which they tuck under, they propel backwards, you catch them in the net, and there you have it.
You don't get other things nibbling on the bacon?
No, the crayfish.
Sharks or
No, these are
catfish?
freshwater. These are freshwater, and these are the only things that you'll catch.
Oh, terrific. No old boots here, huh?
No. Then the next thing we have are eastern mussels. Normally, during mussel season, you can catch these along the coast, along the reefs here. It's very easy to get them. You just go down at low tide, pick them off, and climb back up with your bag of fresh mussels, eat them that night, and voila, they're delicious. Now, we've gotten these from Safeway. They're eastern coast mussels, but they're fresh. And we've got fresh shrimp from Bill LaFay, who is right here in Princeton. He has the abalone shop, and he was wonderful. Thank you very much, Bill, for giving us our shrimp. And we have fresh garden tomatoes. You may not be able to get fresh garden tomatoes, but you can buy, we suggest you buy the Romano tomatoes, which have a little more flavor and a little more meat to them.
Those are
The oval tomatoes. Okay, so we've used 20 of these for our dish. And we've also gotten fresh herbs from some friends of ours in Santa Cruz. We've got fresh bay leaves, fresh sage, fresh lemon thyme, fresh oregano, and let's see, we've got some fresh basil here. Fresh basil. Okay, now all of these go into the dish. We also have garlic and shallots, butter, and virgin olive oil. To begin the fish stock, we use a fresh fish head. We've got here a beautiful blue lingcod. Look at that lovely turquoise color.
very blue.
Oh, beautiful. Blue lingcod is a very flavorful fish. Now, what we've done for the stock, for the main broth, is use salmon. It has a little stronger flavor, but you can use any fish head that you can find. Just make sure it's fresh. Take the fish head, goes into 2 quarts of water on the stove, like this.
Deidre, where do you get a fish head anyway? Do you just go to the store and say, hi, I'd like some fish heads?
No. Actually, you can go down, what we did to get the blue lingcod was go down to the Princeton Harbor. We picked up our shrimp from Bill LaVey at the abalone shop, and then we actually went down to where the fishing boats are coming in, and they're filleting the fish fresh, and we asked for some heads. And usually you can get them free that way. Otherwise, go to Safeway when they're bringing in fresh fish, say, this is how we got our salmon, and go in and say, may we have the head of those, and they'll sell them to you for a very minimal cost. And the salmon is what we use for the fish stock. It has more flavor.
Great, Safeway will sell good heads then.
Yes, they do, and thank you very much, Safeway. Now, what goes into the fish stock? We put 2 leaves of sage, 1 sprig of oregano, 2 sprigs of lemon thyme, and then we wrap all of this bouquet with 1 bay leaf and a little bit of twine. You drop the whole thing in like this. And we cook this simmered for a little over an hour. Longer the better, but an hour is a good time. You get a nice flavor, you get a little bit of oil from the fish, and then you have your basic stock for the dish. Add 6 peppercorns to your fish stock. So, the pinch of salt or two. 1, 2. Now, we begin our tomato sauce. Here we have our garden fresh tomatoes. We're going to slice them so that when I blanch them, the skin will peel away. Now, I'm just going to show you. Otherwise, I would put all of the tomatoes in at once. This is how it goes. The water is very hot. And when you see the tomato skin peel away, that's when you take them out. It doesn't take more than 1 minute. Okay, see, it's ready, right? So we take I'm doing this rather quickly because we don't have all the time that it took us to do this, right? So what we've got for the tomato sauce is 20 fresh garden tomatoes, small to medium size. And we peel them all. And I'm going to show you quickly here how to de-seed the tomatoes.
Isn't the tomato hot now?
Well, it will be very hot, so you should let it cool off, which will take about a minute or two. All right, there's the tomatoes. Open it up. Take all the seeds out like this. Okay, now we do that with all 20 tomatoes. And then what we're going to do, I'm not showing you the seeds inside of the bowl. Of course, they won't be there. The bowl is empty now. We take all of the tomatoes and crush them, like so. Okay, so you have a nice pulp. And those go in here. Now, I have a clean rag here. Now, we put all of the tomatoes in a pot. This is our finished product, but we'll just pretend that there's nothing in the pot. We put them all in, and we take our herbs, and again, we're going to use the same herbs that we used before. This time, we have 2 sprigs of oregano, and we're going to pinch them off like this and put them in the pot with the fresh tomatoes. Okay? You leave the stem off. Okay, and the oregano has very small leaves so that you don't have to pinch the leaves at all. Just take them off the stem and they go into the pot.
And you would pinch the leaves because if they were large to bring out the oils.
Right, that's why we pinch the leaves, to bring out the oil. Then we take 6 basil leaves, which are much larger, like this. And because they're larger, we're going to pinch them down to a smaller size, like so. Small. And all 6 leaves of the basil are going to go in the pot. Then we take 1 fresh bay leaf, just 1. If you're using fresh bay leaf, you don't need more than 1 because it has so much flavor. And that goes in. Then we have 2 leaves, again, of the lemon thyme. And 2 leaves, I'm sorry, I showed you the sage. I showed you 2 leaves of sage. Now the lemon thyme looks like the oregano. We're going to use a full sprig of lemon thyme. So you do the same thing as you did with the oregano. Pinch the leaves off, leaving the stem behind. Those go in. Okay, now we've got all our herbs. What we need next for the sauce is 3 cloves of garlic. So we've got a garlic press, and these are rather small cloves, so if they're this small, I would say put in 4. So you take them into the press. You may not be able to fit them all in at once, but that's what I try to do. And this is a rather old press, so it's going to go like this. And we get all of that into the broth, into the tomato sauce. Okay? 3 to 4 cloves. If they're small cloves, use 4. Then we're going to take some shallots. This is what a shallot looks like with the skin on. Now I'm going to peel the skin off like this, and you want to get all of the skin off. You don't want that skin in the broth. Like this. Okay, now I've used 20 shallots, and I just want them very thin. Okay, We have 20 shallots here, and we're going to use 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Okay, like this. And we're going to simmer them until they become translucent. Okay? And they smell very sweet, very sweet. They give the broth a nice glossy texture. So you saute the shallots until they're translucent. 1 minute, probably 1 minute. And then into the pot they go with the tomatoes and the fresh herbs. Okay? Now, let's give this a couple of twists of white pepper again. Okay? A little white pepper mill. Now, we're going to go to the fish stock, or fish velouté. Now, it's nice and clear and developing a nice film of fish oil, which is going to make the stock very glossy. We've got gelatinous. The more cartilage that you have on the fish, the more gelatinous you're going to get in your fish stock. So now, we're going to strain the fish fumé, or fish velouté, or fish stock. You keep that head in there. Okay, we're going to set that aside. Now we have well over a quart of fish stock. And what we're going to do is put it back in a pot to cook and reduce it, which will take, maybe an hour to reduce this stock.
Can you make the fish stock ahead and save it?
Oh yes, you could make this anytime and freeze it. All stock, chicken stock, fish stock, beef stock can all be frozen in your Ziploc storage bags and put in the freezer and kept for up to 6 months. Okay, so we're going to put this on a simmer, all right? Now, this is simmering and this is simmering the tomato stock. Now, what we have to get ready is our spaghetti squash, which is going to be like a pasta for the dish. Our whole dish is going to be served on top of the spaghetti squash. The first thing you have to do is cut it in half. It's got a very tough shell. So, use a little muscle power. Usually I whack it like that. And there you go. That's the inside. Now, it's very pulpy. What we're going to do is take that pulp out with the seed like you would a pumpkin.
Can you roast the seeds like you roast pumpkin seeds?
Well, I imagine you could, but I never have. All of these seeds can be roasted.
We can use everything but the squeal here, they say.
Okay, we're going to get all of that out.
So the spaghetti part then here is
Well, you're not going to be able to tell until we've cooked it. This is all going to come out in strands like spaghetti.
not fettuccine.
No, spaghetti. It's not flat strands. Now we have our spaghetti squash that's been de-seeded. We're going to put it in a pan in a preheated oven of 350. We want to put in 3 cups of water. So the squash is covered by about a ½ inch. Now, this all goes in the oven for 1 hour or until the skin is tender, poked with a fork, just like you would do a pumpkin if you're making pumpkin pies.
It's that time of year.
Mm-hmm. Squash time. Okay. So now, Michael, we have our tomato sauce, which has been reducing for 1.5 hours.
Nice and thick.
Yes.
That's why you got rid of the seeds and the juice then.
Yes, and it's been reduced. Oh, that flavor.
That's lovely.
That smell. So now we have the fish stock that we're going to add to this. And the fish stock has been reduced for 1 hour. To half, it's... Now, we have from 3 cups, we've reduced it to 1.5, and I'm going to add that to the tomato sauce. And we're going to put it back on to simmer for another half hour at least.
Marry the flavors, further reduce it a bit.
Exactly, exactly. All right, now that we've put the broth on and the tomato sauce is simmering, we've gone a half hour. We're taking this beautiful loaf that Julia Mazzetti has prepared specially for this dish. It's a 1-pound French bread loaf. This is her 15th anniversary. Thank you, Julia, very much. Julia Mazzetti in Pacifica on Manor Drive. Thank you. I'm going to put it in the oven and heat it up. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to take out the spaghetti squash, as that has cooked an hour.
Deirdre, if you don't have a special baker for you, what's the proper bread to serve with this thing? Just a French bread?
Yes, a French roll. Julia said that if she would have had a little more time, she would have made me a beautiful French twist with poppy seeds, which would be very nice. So you will see when we lay our table out why the French bread is so important. Now, we have spaghetti squash, and we're going to show you right now how you take this out and what we're going to do with it. Now, you take a fork and you pull the threads out of the squash. You see, it looks quite like spaghetti, doesn't it? Just like pasta. We want to get it all out. So just pull with your fork all the way up to the husk. Keep pulling until you get all of it out. You have mounds of it. Well over a pound. So that's nice because you can serve at least 6 or more with one spaghetti squash.
And you don't need a pasta machine for this.
No, and it's not fattening either. So, here we go. Now, what we do is take 1/8 of a pound of butter or 1/2 of a cube of butter and melt that. And I'm going to add 3 cloves of crushed garlic to that because we're going to saute the spaghetti squash for just a minute. Now, while we're waiting for the butter to melt down, we've got hot water here for our crawdad. So now, before we saute the spaghetti squash, we're going to blanch the crayfish. Now, there may be some confusion about crayfish and crawdads. Crawdads is a common term here on the coast.
And in Indiana, I might add, where I'm
Oh,
from.
good.
Yeah.
Now, and crayfish is used more in Louisiana. So, we're going to take the crawdads crayfish and we're going to blanch them. And it only takes 1 minute. So we take these. Sorry, Henry. Sorry, George.
Well, they're already
There they
dead
go.
anyway. They're not...
They're dead.
It's not like you're putting
It
a
would
live
be-
lobster in
It
hot
would be
water,
more
no.
preferred to do them live because they would be a little more fresh. But we froze these immediately just a week ago. And they're turning pink now. I'll bring you one out for you to see in just a minute. Just about 1 minute for these. All of the rest of our shellfish is going to go into the main dish. Okay, here's our first one. Look how beautiful, what a beautiful orange that is, like a lobster. Very nice. Oh, look at that color. Very nice. Can you see that? Go. Now, I've done this in just 1 minute. Look at that. And I have 12. That means 6 people can have 2 of them each. There's not a lot of meat, but enough for everyone to enjoy the flavor. There we go. All right, now we're going to saute the spaghetti squash, and at the same time we're going to put all of our shellfish and the tomato sauce and fish broth together. I'll start with the spaghetti squash. We've melted the butter. We're going to add 3 large cloves of garlic, and I have very small cloves, so I'm going to be adding 6 cloves of garlic.
That's a vintage garlic press.
Yes, this is a very old one. I'm sure all the viewers are used to the square.
With a larger capacity.
Yeah. And you know, if you don't have a garlic press, you can use a knife, but use the blunt end of the knife to chop it. This end, the flat end, not the sharp end. Okay. Okay. We want to get all of that, because the garlic flavor is very important to the spaghetti squash.
So you put the garlic in after it's pressed then?
Oh, yes.
You don't just use the juice that is exuded?
Well, you use the juice and the garlic itself. Let's put a little more in, because we want all that flavor. The garlic with the spaghetti squash and the butter is what makes the whole dish merry, as you say.
You could possibly serve the spaghetti squash by itself with a bit
Oh,
of
yes,
cheese
it's
and-
very delicious that way. A little Parmesan cheese makes a great dish for dinner. Feel like you're really splurging, even on a diet. Now, we take all of this squash, we put it in the butter with the garlic, and I'm going to stir it up a little, toss it.
Incidentally, if you are on a diet, spaghetti squash is very low in calories. Pasta itself is low in calories, but spaghetti squash is even lower than that.
And you've got a lot of vitamin A and E in spaghetti squash. Very good for you. Good for your skin. So all of you ladies who want to impress your guests and make them healthy too, this is the thing to serve. And you could do this with clams, naturally, or you could use a spaghetti sauce with it, you know, not with the fish, but just a regular spaghetti sauce, no meat. A little zucchini, maybe. Okay, so now we just toss this a little bit. Now what I'm going to do, that's just simmering. What I'm going to do is take my tomato sauce and pour it in a bigger pot. Look at that color. And I'm going to put in, this is only now going to take 2 minutes for the whole dish to be done. We're going to throw our mussels in first, because they have to be opened up. And like with clams, it takes less than 2 minutes for them to open up. Get our parsley out of the way.
I'll eat that.
By the way, Italian parsley has much more flavor than the parsley you usually buy, and it's got larger leaves. Isn't that nice? I can smell it from here. So if you're worried about fish breath, just take a cue from us. Now look what's happened here. We've got a mussel that's eaten a clam. We'll put it on together. Good.
Or shrimp.
All right. Oh, thank you, it's shrimp. All right, now we're going to put the shrimp in on top of that.
Now, you've already cleaned the shrimp.
Oh yes, thank you for reminding me. It's very important. When you take the skin off the shrimp, the shell, leave at least a 1/4 inch so that you can hold it with your fingers when you take it out of the fish broth, the tomato broth. And there is a vein on the back which is called the mud vein, and that is the one that you want to take out. So you take your fingernail or a knife and just slit it a little bit, and you'll see the vein in there. Just pull gently, it'll come right out. Okay? You don't have to take the blood vein out. It has no flavor and is unimportant. So just take on the back of the shellfish, the shrimp, take the mud vein out. Now, all of these are going to go in. And you don't want to overcook them, so don't cook it more than 2 minutes.
Incidentally, you can save the shrimp shells. They're wonderful in a bisque.
The shells of any fish or the skin of any fish gives you a very clear broth, very shiny, gelatinous. It's very nice. So always leave the skin and the cartilage in. Now I'm going to put these back in. The crayfish are going to go back in on top. So that we get the full flavor of everything. Right, now I'm going to cover this so we get a little steam. Saute de tomate avec coconuts. Thank you very much, Michael Rosenberg, for doing our beautiful display of bromeliads to go with our dinner. He's displaying at the Hall of Flowers in San Francisco. Thank you, Michael. This really is beautiful. And thank you, Paulo Bester, for our wine, Sauvignon Blanc, 1987. We've added that to our dish, and we're going to drink it with our dinner.
And thank you, Deidre Close, for being on Versatile Kitchen, making a wonderful dish you can make at home, all with local ingredients. And now, a toast to the chef and to the wonderful dinner. A voce sante.
If you want a copy of today's recipe, write to Versatile Kitchen, recipe set to care of Pacifica Community Television, 340 Inverness Drive, Pacifica, California, 94044.